If my screen gets really crowded and I want to clear it out, I can push the clear button and it's going to clear that out for me. If I am typing in an expression and oops, I didn't want to, let's say, oh, I didn't mean to put a 7 there, it's really -2. I can go over to a number, highlight it, and then rather than pressing clear and starting all over again, I can push delete and then enter. I could also type in an expression and say, oh, I didn't mean to have 55,489, I meant to have 56,489, and I can go over there and I can substitute in the number I wanted and push enter. I also have the ability, if I am putting in a problem or an expression, I could say, oh, I really wanted to do 5 times 8 plus 7 minus 9. I missed the minus sign. I can go back there and I can do an insert. So rather than pushing delete or substituting in the minus, I can actually push second and then delete button insert. And now it's giving me a space. I can put in the minus sign and then I just need to arrow out. So those are all some fun features we have there. If I'm working with fractions, I'm doing an operation like 78 divided by 30, let's say 32, right? I get the decimal, but I actually wanted the fraction reduced to lowest terms. I can take this decimal and go to math and then push 1 for the fraction and push enter, and it will give me a fraction in lowest terms, okay? I could also get fractions and do operations with fractions by, I'll show that to you again. I'm going to quit out of there. If you get in something and you want to get out of there, you push second mode to quit out. So what I did there to get fraction options was I pushed alpha, which is the green button, and then Y, and it gives me an option of fraction structures. So number 1 is showing us numerator over denominator. The second is showing us mixed numbers. The third option is going from improper to mixed numbers, and the fourth is going from fraction to decimal. I'm going to use option 1. Rather than having to go all the way up, I can just push option 1. And if I want to do a fraction operation, like let's say 2/3 plus 7/8, I can just put in another fraction of 7/8, and it'll give me my answer in fraction form. If I want to switch that to decimals, I can do that alpha Y again. Go to number 4, which is fraction decimal. If you notice, it says ANS, meaning that it's taking my last answer, 37/24, and it's going to take it from a fraction to a decimal. Okay. From here, I think it's a good place to kind of just talk about, well, what if we wind up in a place I don't really know where we are? I don't really know where we are. To get out of that, I'm going to push second and then the mode button to quit. We're going to clear our window and let's start talking about graphing. So to graph, we're going to go to our y equals. One of the first things we want to check is that our y equals are all clear. We're graphing for the first time, we don't want anything in there. If there's just one thing there, like you've got an 8 there, you can just go over there and just clear that out. That's no problem. If you've got a bunch of stuff, we would want to reset the calculator. I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video. We also want to look to see, are any of our plots on? You know the plot's on because then it's bolded there. To get that off, all you're going to do is go over to it, have it flashing here, push enter, and then go back to your Y1. This is how we want the screen to look when we graph. Right? So we're going to graph our first function. Because the calculator sets us up y equals, we always have to graph using slope-intercept form on the graphing calculator. Let's start by graphing y equals 3x minus 4. So our slope, our coefficient is 3. Now we need our variable x. I know you guys see letters here in green. We're not using those. We're going to use the button to the right of the alpha button that says xt theta n. That's our variable button. Anytime we push it, an x is going to pop up. So now we've got 3x, and we're going to push minus 4. To get our picture, you have two options. You could push graph, or you could push zoom. We're always going to go to zoom to get our picture because we want to make sure we're going to have a good starting window. After I push zoom, this screen pops up, which is our zoom options. Okay? We're always going to start with zoom 6, which is our standard window. All of these different options have different applications. For us in Algebra 1, we're going to start with 6 zoom standard. So you can go down to 6 and push enter, or you could just push the number 6. When we push enter, our graph makes. We get our graph made. You will notice as it's working, this little icon comes up on the top right. You always want to wait for that little spinning wheel to stop before you push any buttons. So we can look at our graph. We can see it's got a y-intercept of -4. We can kind of count up our slope of 3. If we want to find any specified points, we can use the trace feature, which is up here in gray. If I push the trace button, I get a flashing cursor, and I can see our points, that when x is 0, y is -4. And as I tap back and forth, it's moving up and down our line, so I can find the different coordinates on the line. If there's a specific point I'm looking for, like let's say I want to know what the y value is when x is 3, I can just push 3, and now it's saying, oh, you want to know what the coordinates are when x equals 3. I push enter, and it'll tell me, and it'll show me on the graph. That only works for when we're inputting an x coordinate. I can't input a y coordinate. To input a y coordinate, we would use a table feature. If I wanted to, let's say, know what is the x value when y is 7. To go to the table, you might notice that that's in blue above graph. I would push second graph to get to our table, and then I can look and see and find, oh, for my y values that are integers, when y is 8, x is 4, and so on. If I wanted a specific number to start at, let's say I'm interested in our function when the x values are 20 and above. I could go to table set, which is in blue above window, so I would hit second window. This is asking me, what do I want my table to start at? Normally it's 0, but I can put in something specific, like I want it to start at x equals 20, and I can also change what it's going by. I can change it to go by halves or 5s or 10s or whatever I want. Now I need to go back to my table. I would push second table. Okay? And I've changed the x. Now it's going by halves, and it's starting at 20. And then I can scroll through wherever I want to the table. I could also type in what I want. Oh, I guess I can't type in what I want x to be. But I could go back to table set and reset, go back to 0, and change it to go back to 1s. Okay? If I want to go back to my graph, all I need to do is push graph in gray. Okay? Let's try another function and learn some more features. So let's go back to our y equals. I'm going to clear out that equation, okay, in my y1, and let's put in a new equation. Let's put in the equation y equals 1/2 x plus 3. So 1/2 x, we need a fractional coefficient. So I'm going to push alpha y equals. We're going to go in that improper form. Put in the 1, put in the 2. Now I've got to arrow over So now I'm in line with the fraction bar, put my variable button, plus 3. So here I'm going to do my zoom 6, and I can see our graph. Notice in our graph, in our standard window, we can see our y-intercept. We can also see an x-intercept where the line is crossing the x-axis. That tends to be features we like to see in our graph and kind of tells us, is it a good window? Okay. All right, let's try another function. Let's go back to our y equals. I'm going to clear out this function, and let's do the function negative 3/4 x plus 12. So fractional coefficient, I'm going to push alpha y, negative 3/4. I'm going to put the negative in the numerator. Notice I use the negative. 3/4 arrow over x plus 12. Okay. We're going to go to our zoom 6. Ooh, that's not a good picture, right? We really can't see the function. We can't see the y-intercept. We can't see the x-intercept. So here's where we're going to make an adjustment. We have a few options. We could use our zoom out, number 3. And this flasher here is telling us where do we want the center of our picture. So we could leave it the origin. But I don't really love that, right? We can't tell too much what's going on. So I might instead, from our original picture, think about adjusting the window. What parts of the graph do I want to see? I want to see the y-intercept, which is going to be somewhere up top because we know it's positive 12, and the x-intercept that looks like it's somewhere further in the positive x's. To adjust the window, we're going to push the window button, and we're going to change our scale of our picture. So our x-min right now in the standard window is negative 10. Okay? So I'm going to say let's do a negative 2. Now some of you might be noticing, oh, Ms. Dasso, you didn't use the negative button, you used the subtraction button. I want to show you what happens. Let's make our, oops, error quit or error go to. If I click go to, it'll show me where my error is, like we just said. Oops, I used the subtraction instead of the negative. So I'm going to put in my negative there. Oops. Or push negative 2. Our x max, let's change to 20 to move it out a little more. Notice I typed the 2 and it got rid of the 0, so I had to type that in there. Our y min, we don't need to see much below the y-axis, so let's make this a negative 2. And our y max, we know the y-intercept is 12. Let's make it nice and even, a 20. Now here, to get the picture of our window, I am not going back to zoom. I have to go directly to graph. And there we are. There's our picture. Now we can see our y-intercept. We can see our x-intercept. If I click trace and I push 0 for our x, we can calculate our y-intercept for us. All right. So to get out of here, out of our window, we're just going to push second mode to quit. And the last thing I wanted to show you is how to reset your calculator. So if you get something super crazy and it gets stuck, or you have all crazy stuff in your y equals, we're going to reset the calculator. So we're going to do that by using the memory feature, which is in blue above the plus sign. So you're going to push second plus to access the memory features. And we're going to go to 7 reset. So we're going to push 7. Now it's asking us, do we want to reset? We're going to say yes to reset all the RAM. And then we're going to click 2. And we've reset our calculator, which means everything should be clear. Everything should be fresh. There's also a little reset on the back of your calculator that you can push a pencil into, and that'll reset the calculator as well.